Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Trading Made Easy right here on YouTube. I'm certainly glad that you found yourself here. Well, today is Sunday, the day that the market opens back up, right? And of course, it's Sunday evening at this point. But I wanted to come and shoot a quick video so that we can do a quick run through of the pairs, right? Of the pairs. Now, the question I'm posing is Is Sunday trading an absolute no go? Is it an absolute don't do it? And my answer, in my opinion, is no, it's not. I get asked often what sessions I trade. I don't have a particular session that I trade. I trade the setup. So if the setup presents itself and it meets all of my criteria, I take the trade. It doesn't matter what time it is or what session it is. Now, with that being said, there are certainly times where the setup presented itself, my qualifications would have met, but I missed it. And I'm okay with that. So you have to choose what works for you. That works for me. I trade the setup. There are times where if you're trading a session and you're looking for your setup in that session and it does not materialize, it may materialize in a different session. Then what happens? But either way, you have to decide what works best for you. So, is Sunday trading an absolute no go? And the answer, in my opinion, is no. So, what we do have to realize about Sunday trading, however, is one, what do we know that's happening on Sunday when the market opens? Well, the market is opening, right? So it's just kind of revitalizing itself, just like us when we're sleeping and we awake from a sleep, right? Most people don't just spring to life, right? You got to kind of wind yourself up and, go to the bathroom and get your coffee, whatever it is to get you going before you actually feel vibrant or feel like you're within yourself, right? The grogginess is gone. You feel more alert, more sharp, more clarity, more focus, right? Because you have gone through the process, right, of waking up. And that's the same thing that happens in the market. So with that being said, during that process, price is just in an influx. Price is just in an influx. It's doing this, it's doing that. And most importantly, this is when brokers actually sit and wait, and they don't really have to hope, right? Because they know that a large percentage of traders are going to trade on Sundays. So this is the time that brokers like to manipulate the price, move price in a particular direction, right? So that psychologically you thinking, oh, it's going here, only for them to pull it back in the direction it was already going to go. So I know that that piece is not new to most of my subscribers here. And for those that it is, now you know, right? So for that reason, you want to be very, very cautious with Sunday. Now, for me, like I said, I trade the setup. Let's say the setup is there on a Sunday. Even with that, there are still rules. So when the market opens right up, I don't trade. I don't care what's going on, right? I don't trade. That's like asinine, right? The market, you just opened your eyes, more or less, right? And so I don't trade. But if the setup appears, right, and everything falls in line with my rules, and it happens to be Sunday evening, and listen, I'll check the news. You got to go through your criteria. Everything lines up. I'll take it. I'll take it, right? Now, am I looking for a trade on Sunday? No, I'm not. I'm not. And because of that, there may be some positions that would have met my criteria that I missed because I'm not looking for a trade on Sunday, but I'm not opposed to trading on Sunday if all of my criterias are there. They have met. So I hope that makes sense. That's what works for me. And you have to decide what works for you. Now, what do I do on Sundays? Throughout the weekend, I do this, but on Sundays as well, I kind of just kind of go through the pairs. Now, one of the things that you want to be mindful of is that how did the market close? Very important. How did the market close? Did we close in an impulse, right? Did we close in a correction? Did we close in a continuation? We never want to get away from those three questions. Every single time, I can't stress it enough, when we go to the chart, we want to ask ourselves, where is price? First question, where is price? The next question, how did price get here? In other words, what took place prior? What was going on prior in price that led to where we are right now? And then the third question is, where do we go from here? How do I get in the trade? What do I need to do to participate in this setup here? Those three questions every single time. If you on the 1 hour, you asking that question. If you drop down to the 15, you're asking that question. If you go up to the higher time frames, you're asking that question. And when you do that, my friend, you position yourself to where you're not lost in the market. You always want to know where you are in the market so that you know what position you need to be taking. Another thing I want to point out to you is that price moves in three directions. We all know this, but I do believe that when we're engaging with the charts, other emotions start to take over. And the things that we know, those very foundational things that we know, we forget, right? We don't even think about it. But this is the frame of mind that you want to consistently be in when you're trading. Your thinking as it relates to trading must be methodical, right? And it has to be pointed questions. Where's price? Like, where are you? What are you doing right now? How did you get here? And what am I going to do at this point? Where do I go from here, right? So price moves in three directions: impulse, correction, continuation. The impulse and the continuation is the same direction. The impulse is always in the direction of the trend. Now, this is the reason why our phenomenal system is so phenomenal. Why? Because it gives you that information. Now, for me, I created sort of like a hybrid. I've used some elements of the original Triple Arrow and some elements of the simplicity. And that basically creates my trading plan, the Trading Made Easy trading plan. And that's what I do, right? So book a session, you get all of that stuff. But for this video, I just want to help you frame your thinking as it relates to the chart every single time you come to the chart. Every single time you come to the chart, there should be specific questions that you're asking yourself. Very specific. And those questions will lead you into the analysis of what you should be looking for to help you create or complete, I should say, the picture of what price is doing. You will get to a point where you can come to a chart, look at the chart and say, okay, this is what's going on, right? And this is what I need to do. So the first thing is impulse is always in the direction of the trend. If we're bearish, all of the bearish moves are continuations, because after the first bearish move, that's your impulse. And all the other bearish momentum or movement is a continuation of the impulse. Remember, the impulse and the continuation is the same direction. So if the impulse is bearish, then clearly our correction will be bullish. Okay, so you can come to the charts at any time and you can look and see what position is price in right now. Are we in a continuation or are we in a correction? If we're in a correction, then there's other entry criteria again. This is general. Again, session, you get all of that stuff. But what you're looking at is if we're in a correction in a bearish trend, then are we going to take that trade? Right? That's what we got to ask ourselves. Are we going to take the trade in the opposite direction? No, there's certain criteria that needs to be met. Okay, certain criteria that needs to be met. So these are the things that you want to ask yourself. The last thing that you want, and this is so important, right? And this is why you don't want to do this when the market opens. You want to do this on the weekend so that you can think without the additional emotion that clouds our thinking. It's like when we have an adrenaline rush, right? It's like that adrenaline, you can't think. It's just a rush, right? And so when the market is settled and we can't do anything, the bars are not moving, that's when we can really exercise that clarity and that focus. And then when the market opens, we've already done our analysis. Hey, we're ready to go. Okay. Now, that last question that you want to ask yourself is, how did price end last week on Friday? That's what you want to ask yourself. And that kind of brings us into this. Okay, so hopefully that has helped thus far. For those of you that do not have the Simplicity trading system, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing yourself a disservice. You need the system. You need the system, right? Now, there are traders that are doing great without the system, right? Everybody don't have the system, obviously. But here's the thing. No matter what your skill level is, this system will enhance it. It's really that simple. It will enhance it. And if you want to work with me, you have to have the system. Yeah, I guess I need to mention that, right? Because I do nothing without it. I do nothing without it. If it's not broke, don't try to fix it. This is not broke, right? Great information here in this system. And again, when we have our one-on-one sessions, for those that want it, I'll break all of that stuff down. Okay, so get the system, link in the description, click it, purchase it, then let's get a session. Let's maximize the system and let's get these pips consistently. Okay, now what you want to do is ask yourself, how did price end? So last week, this is last week, obviously, right? Because the market just opened. It is 9:55. Market just opened, right? At 5 o'clock. But how did price end? When you just come to the chart and you look at this, right? We're bearish, but where was price? Price had moved down. We had our impulse, we had our correction, we created a flag, and we dropped, right? Now, let me tell you something about the flag. Let me tell you something about the flag that's very important. Remember this, remember this. Anytime price creates a pattern, it is a confirmation of the trend. In other words, it's telling you, price is saying, I still want to go down. Anytime that there's a flag pattern, now we know consolidation is the beginning of a flag pattern. That's what consolidation is. And let me give you an example. Okay, I'm gonna stick to what I want to talk about. I get the going, and other things just come out, right? So what do we do with consolidation? We block it, we trap it, right? We put our trend line on the high wick and then the low wick. We trap price in that range, and we don't trade consolidation, right? We wait for a breakout, and then we proceed with the rest of our criteria. But when price when it consolidates, that is a confirmation of the impulse. Follow me. It's a confirmation of the impulse. The impulse is always in alignment with the trend. That is the impulse. So when we get that flag pattern, I call it, or confirmation, it's just really confirming that price wants to continue in the direction that it's going. In other words, it's not likely to go in a continuation in the other direction when it consolidates, when it begins to make that flag pattern. Now, I'm not saying that price won't go in the other direction and continue. Now, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, when price makes a flag pattern, when price consolidates, that is the beginning of a flag pattern, and is also a confirmation that price wants to continue in that trend. Okay, so that's real important to know, and we love to see it, actually, and that's a whole nother video. But nevertheless, okay, so how did price end? Right, so we did that. It broke out. And basically it came on down into our buy zone. So we're on an hour chart. The market opened at 5 o'clock. So that's about 4 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're somewhere around in here is when price opened. Okay. So from this point was last week. Okay. How did price end? How did this pair close out on Friday? Okay. It closed out in what? A continuation, really, because it came down, right? And then let's see here, came down into our buy zone. Okay. And then it closed where? Well, this is a correction. Now, this wick right here, or this Morningstar doji, that from that candle to the current one, that's today. So let's not watch that. That's not what we're looking at. When Friday ended, this is where we were. So price continued on down inside of our demand zone, right? And then it pulled back out, which is what it's supposed to do because we're in a demand zone, right? We're only looking for buys to come out of here. So anyway, it did. It pulled out, and then of course the market closed. So right now it closed, well, Friday it closed in a correction. Right? And so when we come back to the new week, right, we're coming into a correction. Now look, it's a downtrend, right? So this is how we refer to our left side to determine where it can potentially pull up. Of course, I use my Fibonacci as well, but I want to try to keep it basic right now and use price first, right? And then we use our tools as an aid. Okay, so right in this area right here, I am expecting price to come back up in this area right here. Why? Well, this is the reason why. Obviously we have, I'm not going to go through all that because we have the support dots. Usually I would have had these off. But okay, so we got our support dots right here, right? And then right in this area as well, price came down, pulled up, right? And pushed right back down. This was a nice move down. It ended up in a wick, but this was a strong push down, right? And then it closed bullish. So right in this area, I'll be looking at price having a reaction. So I would be looking for price to come up to this area, which is about 30 to 31 pips, and then react. And what would that reaction be? That reaction would be a push back down. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. I see some other things in this area as well. I'll talk more about patterns and what they mean, and what you can expect price to do as a result of certain patterns. Now, this is a teacup. I see a couple of teacups here, bullish, bearish, lower low, lower high right here. So I expect, and this is a big bearish candle, and it's also an engulfing candle. So I expect price to rise to this area, okay? Rise to this area right here. And it is below the area right here. So, but remember, look, we have a wick that wicked up here. So that's why I expect for it to get to about this area right here, which is another teacup setup. I'll talk about all of this, in our training, and I'll also do some more videos on it. But you have a bullish candle, a bearish candle, and a lower low. Okay, so I do expect, where do we go? I do expect for price to come up to this point right here. I'm just going to put the line right there. Okay, I expect to come up here, have a reaction, right? So I expect the price to do what? Come up, right? And I expect for it to pull back. Right? And I'm expecting it to pull back inside of our zone, right around these dots right here, right? So I'm going to use that as my guide, okay? And so I expect for price to kind of pull back into this zone and actually come on down to this point right here. That's my expectation. Now, this may not happen, right? So what's the alternative? What is the alternative? Price can actually do that, right? Come up, test this area, push back down. It can actually come back up and break through. It could do that, right? And come up to this point right here. It can certainly do that. And that's fine. We just identify what the possibilities are, and we just prepare ourselves for entry when certain things happen. Because you can't control price. I think a lot of times we get kind of in our minds, we expecting price to do this particular thing, and that price just doesn't move like that. And the fact is, we don't control price. But what we do control is the ability to identify the options, the ability to identify the options. What options? The options that price can actually do. It's only going to do one or two things, right? It's only going to do one or two things. It's either going to push down or it's going to push up. And what we do is we identify areas where price reacted in the past as those potential areas where price will react again. That's all we're doing. That is all we are doing. So now what I would like to do is just throw the fib on here really quick. Let's throw the fib on here really quick. Okay. All right. Okay. I know there's a lot of lines here. Work with me, work with me. Okay, so we're right in this area here. My expectation is that it's going to come up to at least this point. Where is that? The 38. That's the 38. Okay. Now, the key areas on the fib, these are areas, strong areas of support and resistance. These are areas where price typically have a reaction. You can look in the past and see at those areas that it reacted. Now, does it mean that price will always react? No, that price will break those zones. It will break those zones. But when it gets to that point, you should already have a certain expectation of what's happening or what the potential can be. Okay. So the fact that it's right around the 38, yeah, right around in here, the 38, in this area that I'm expecting it to come and then push back down to about the 61. Push back down to about the 61. Now, my expectation is that it will push down because it's bearish, so it's coming down. We know that, right? And my next level, the next low I'm looking at is right here. It's right here, okay? That's the next low that I'm looking at price to come, okay? And if so, it's going to break this area, this zone. Remember, these boxes are not static. They move. Price moves them. So if it does come down, which I do anticipate that it will, we just don't know when, but we know it's going to happen, right? It will move our demand box, right? And that's perfectly okay to this area. And then at that point, we may be looking at a bullish big arrow populating, indicating that price wants to then go back up. Now, the same analysis that I just did, real quick, real simple, you do that on any time frame, right? You can do that on any time frame. Okay. So that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking at. So for price to come up, hit this area, push back down inside of our demand zone, rally around in this area ultimately, right? The other option, right, is that price can come down to the 61 because we know this area is the 61. We just saw that on the fib and have a reaction. Why? Because the 61 is a key area on the fib where is a key reversal area, put it like that, okay? Price will react. Now, will it always reverse when it gets to these areas? No, eventually it's going to break through. Eventually it's going to break through. And so it's going to do one or two things. It's going to break through and rally down to the next low, which is right here. If it does not rally down, if it does not react, or I'm sorry, if it breaks through, that's my expectation. But if it reacts to the 61, meaning it reverses, then I'm expecting it to rally back up. And it could break through this zone right here. It could. What are some things that can cause that to happen? News, of course, right? unexpected events that can take place in the world can cause that to happen. These are things that's out of our control, right? Only thing we can do is look at price, analyze it for what we see, for what we see. Now, I'm going to make it short, wrap it up. This is what I do. And to get full details, of course, spend one-on-one time with me. It's very valuable to do that, to have one-on-one time so that, of course, I can go into much further detail, lay out the entry criteria, right? Because before you enter into a trade, you must know where you're going to enter, where you're going to get out, and where you're going to put your stop before you even get into the trade. You want to know that, right? So you get all of that information. Access the link. Get the system if you don't have it. Access the link, purchase your system. You deserve to have it. It's just really point blank. And then I'm going to show you how to trade the simple, easy way. That's what I'm going to do. Now, let's do one more. How did the market end last week? Okay, so USD CAD. We bullish, right? We had a nice impulse. This is a nice impulse. We're in the supply zone. What are we looking to do? We're looking for a drop, right? We're looking for a drop. Now, I trade with the trend. Can you trade, sell out of here? You can, but in my opinion, it's not a high quality position to take because it's against the trend. That's me. So I trade with the trend. Now, if I wanted to take this position, then what I would be doing is waiting for price to pull back down into my zone. Into my zone. This is my sweet spot for a buy. This is where I'm gonna get the best price for entry. So that's what you want. You want to buy low, right? So we down in here. We want to buy down in here, not in here, not in here. We definitely don't want to be buying in the supply zone, right? But we want to buy low and we want to sell high, right? We want to sell high, but we want to trade with the trend for the best, highest quality trade that's going to give you the highest probability of profit. That's why we do that. That's why we trade with the trend. It's not like if you count a trend trade that you can't make your pips. Yes, but it's a little more risky now. It's a little more risky now. You're going against the grain, okay? So in this case, I will be waiting for price to do what? Pull back. And I will be looking for price to pull back definitely here. I'm actually down in this area here. Now, one of the things that you can do, right, so that you don't miss the move and you don't have to constantly be watching the chart, set an alert. Set an alert, okay? Set an alert. You can set your alert in two areas. Set your alert right here, and then set your alert right here in this area, right there. Because why? We don't just throw things out just because it sounds good. There's a reason. And the reason being is we have a nice little pivot here area. This is an area where the market reacted. So we're going to set our alert at this price point here. Okay. And then when you get alerted, just go about your business. When you get alerted, you come back. And then, of course, our entry criteria kicks in. But now you're in a position to get the best price and you're trading with the trend. That's how we want to do it. And then we go through the other criteria. Again, you'll learn all of that. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on. So that's what's going on with UCAD. So USHEP, same thing. Here's another thing. When your base pairs are in a certain position, that same base pair on other currencies tend to be in the same position, right? So USD, we know, is an impulse. It ended on the impulse, right? And it began the correction when the market closed. It began the correction when the market closed. So for a buy, same thing. I'm waiting for it to pull back into my buy zone, and then I'll get a good price, and I'm trading with the trend, and then I'm going to take it up, right? I'm going to take it up. Okay, NZD USD. Was there other? Let's go to USD JPY. Let's do that here. Okay, so NZD USD JPY is bearish. Is bearish on this. The overall trend is bearish, right? So how did it end last week? How did it end? Of course, it ended in a correction coming out, right? So we impulsed up, and then last week the correction began right around this area. So it's 10 o'clock. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 6, 5. So right here, right where that little gap is. Okay, so from this candle back, disregard it, don't watch that. So it ended right here in what? Of the beginning of what we call a pullback, right? And so it is a sale. The trend is a sale. Okay. Now, this price has already come out of my zone. I really like to enter inside of the zone. I don't want to enter, you know, when it's already out going toward the middle. However, if it pulls back up, then, you know, this may be one that I would look at. Why do I have? This may be one that I will look at, and then I will go through the rest of my confirmations. And to get all of that, that's one-on-one, guys. I can't give all of that on the YouTube. And of course, my you know, coaching students who really want to learn this, reserve certain information for them. That makes sense, right? That makes sense. Okay, so let's do, and that's, I don't trade ZAR, so I'm not even going to try to do that. Okay, so Euro, how did the market end? Okay, first of all, we're bearish. How did the market end? It ended right in a, basically an impulse, came right on down. We consolidated, ended in consolidation, which, you know, it always does, but it was an impulse down, right? So now what's going to happen? You're in your buy zone. What's going to happen? We're getting ready for a pullback. Okay. See, you can make this determination on the weekends when the market is closed, just by determining how price ended. That way, you know what to expect coming into the week, or the opening of the trading week on Sunday. And it's doing just that. You're in the zone, right? The buy zone, and it's pulling up. It's not just pulling up just because, it's pulling up because we just came off of an impulse or a continuation. We just came off of a continuation. Okay. And that's why that's happening. Okay, I'm gonna do this last one. CAD JPY. Let's do CAD JPY. Okay, bearish. How did it end? It ended basically, well, we actually had an impulse, and then it tried to rally out on Friday, but we're in the zone, right? So what is the expectation? That's the question. The expectation, right, because of where it's at, is that it's going to push out. And then, of course, you look left, there's certain criteria that you're going to be looking for on the left side to determine where the potential area would be before it do what? Before it reacts. Before it reacts and pulls back down. That's what you're looking for. Make that determination when the market is closed so that you can think clear and you can have all of this already mapped out. And when the Sunday comes, you're good. You already have your game plan and you're ready to go. So I'm going to leave it at this point. I'm going to leave at this point, and I'll certainly see you on the next video. We're going to talk more about structure and how to use that to make certain determinations. Hope that this has given you some value and just kind of help you to frame your thinking as it relates to what you should be looking at when you come to the charts, And so yeah, that's it for tonight. So I will see you all on the next video. Have a great one. Good night.